Greetings and welcome to the show. Tonight I'll be installing Void Linux. Void Linux is a lightweight Linux distribution that is not forked from any other distro out there. It was built from the ground up by a very talented team of Linux enthusiasts. Not only is it lightweight, but it is robust and old system friendly. Not that you'd only want to run it on an old system, it runs amazingly fast on modern systems too. So let's just jump into it. I haven't installed this yet, so this is going to be a first time for me too, so we'll get my overall opinion of it at the end of the video. We're going to boot off of it. It comes with a live CD, and they support 5 different desktops, I think it is. Enlightenment, Cinnamon, LXDE, Mate, and XFCE. I chose XFCE for this install. So the installer is terminal based, so the first thing you want to do, according to their wiki, is come root and then run their command line installer. This reminds me of the old school Debian installer from, geez, back in the 90s, but I kind of like it. It's a throwback to when things were just a little simpler. So it's Void Installer. Welcome to Void Installer, simple minimal Linux distribution made from scratch. They're really proud of that made from scratch part. The package manager is called XBPS, which is X Binary Package System, and it's actually pretty nice. And they wrote it specifically for this distro. So we'll go ahead and set up our keyboard. So this looks like what installers look like in the old days, and I think even today if you do a server install of something like CentOS or Red Hat, it looks pretty much like this too, from what I remember. It's been a while since I've done a server install. So we'll just go ahead and call it Void VM. Set up our locale. Time zone. I don't know, this just brings back memories of the old days when I used to set up Linux in the 90s. If you don't know, I've been running Linux since about 92 or 3. And I've probably worked with Linux since about 94. And this just reminds me of the old days of setting up servers back then. But this isn't even a server install, it is a desktop. Now, one thing I did read in their documentation, if you're going to use a BIOS-based system instead of UEFI, you have to set up a 1 megabyte partition and call it and set it for BIOS partition for the type. So we'll do that first. I don't remember ever having to do this before, so this is kind of new to me, but it works. So that's all you need to do for it. You don't need to format it or anything. You'll see later on that we won't format it. I'm just gonna go with a 2 gig swap. Oh, this is a VM, by the way, with the minimum memory. I set it for 1 gig of memory and a 40 gig virtual hard disk, just to see how it runs on a really low spec system. Oh, and 2 cores on the CPU. Okay, and this is where it shows my file systems. There's that 1 meg. We gotta define our types and our mount points. We'll do ext4 and just mount to root. And we're done. Oops. Gonna have to do that again. Oh, no, okay. Go to install. Notice it doesn't list that 1 megabyte partition because it's not going to do anything with it as part of the install. Grub will set that up. So I'm going to fast forward through this. It took about 12 minutes for the install. We're going to go ahead and boot up. Boot up's pretty fast on this system. Even though it is a VM, it is on a solid state, or no, I think it's on my spinning drive, so boot up time's not too bad. The graphics quality, it didn't detect my video card, so it kind of looks crappy here. And my capture didn't come out quite right, so sorry about the poor quality. It clears up a little later in the video. This right here is because it doesn't have the right drivers, so we're going to have to do a system update and then install the Virtualbox guest drivers. So you notice how the video is kind of ghosting and stuttering. I don't know if it would do this on real hardware. Probably not. And it's also not detecting my display resolution, so we definitely need to install some stuff here. So the package manager is command line based, and it's xbps-install-suv. That's a system update. The wiki for this distro says to run it until it doesn't have any more updates. So there's updates, and then there'll be updates to updates, and then when you're done, you reboot. So, and I'm going to fast forward through the download and installs of all the updates. So we're going to run it again. This one's going to be the big one. This is practically a whole install at 833 megabytes. So I'm going to fast forward through this. This took about, I don't know, maybe another 15 minutes. It took a long time. So they need to update their ISOs, obviously. This was the latest ISO, and I guess they just haven't updated it. Oh, another nice thing about this distro, it is a rolling release. So, you know, Arch is known for being a rolling release, and Manjaro is a rolling release. I like rolling release systems. And this is a rolling release, so you install it once and it'll always stay up to date, and that's always a good thing for me. Okay, rebooting. Come on. And come on, come on, there it goes. And it's still at a lower resolution. So that, you know, we still need to install the VirtualBox stuff, so we'll do that next. But I noticed after this update, it was a little more responsive. So that's a good thing, I guess. So it does tell you to make sure you have UDEV installed, or dbus, excuse me, dbus. So they tell you to run the install command just to check. I wasn't sure if it installed it, so we're going to go ahead and run it. And it's already installed, so we don't have to worry about it. So from here we can just install the VirtualBox drivers. This is probably the steps you'd have to do for proper video drivers. You'd have to look it up in their wiki. By the way, their wiki's great. It's probably on par with the Arch wiki. I was quite impressed with how well things are documented for this. So of course I fast forwarded through that, and probably took about 3 minutes. It was actually a pretty fast install. There are some failures here. That's because it has old kernels still in there, and it detected them, but it doesn't have the header. So it's not it's a red herring. It's not anything to worry about. As long as you don't get a failed on your current kernel, which should be fine. Yeah, so we're 4.17.4. Well, it did say it failed. Interesting. Well, it tells you to run this ln command. This is all in their wiki. This is a symbolic link, and then we'll reboot. It should work. I think it installed the drivers, but I think because we didn't... I don't know why we got that failed error, but I think it's going to work. Loading RAM disk. I'm actually thinking about installing this on my laptop and playing with it for a while. My laptop is running Ubuntu, and I don't mind sticking. Ah, look, we got full resolution, 1080p. Again, the recording came out weird, so it's a little grainy. I don't know why it came out so weird. I'm blaming it on Kdenlive because for some reason it looks good in my capture, but when Kdenlive renders this, it looks like crap. So hopefully you guys can still see everything. But there you go. We got an XFCE desktop, and it's no more ghosting, full screen. It all looks really good. I really like this system. I think this is going to be an up-and-coming system. Kind of like, you know, in the old days, no one knew about Arch, and Arch was its thing, and it was kind of, oh, it was just for the nerdy geek guys. I think this is going to be coming up on the tails of Arch as a good rolling release. They just need to get more packages. The more I looked around at the packages that were available, there were things that I would use that I couldn't find, and it might just be that I just don't know where to look for them. So it's all about, you know, finding the right packages. Like HTOP wasn't installed. I had to install that. Well, it's a minimal system, so there's a lot of stuff that's going to be missing. Screen fetch, not available. Well, permission denied, but it doesn't exist in their repos. But NeoFetch did exist, so NeoFetch some people like better. But Screen Fetch has become the de facto to show what your system specs are, so I don't know why they wouldn't have it in there. I haven't checked to see if some of my favorite tools are in there, like tools that I use for graphics editing, and like GIMP. I'm sure GIMP's in there. And like Kdenlive, I was in there. They don't have a KDE desktop, so I doubt that Kdenlive's even in there. So there's HTOP. But the nice thing is look at the memory that it's using, 309 megs. That's nothing. They say that this will run on a system with a minimum of, I think it said 512 megs. This system that I have here is a 1 gig system, and it hasn't hit swap. So that's pretty impressive. This is probably a good distribution for those old laptops or old desktop machines out there that you want to, you know, still use. And, you know, maybe you have people that just want something for browsing and reading the news and watching YouTube. This might be the distro that you want to consider. It's much more lightweight than it's like Lubuntu, and I think it's a little heavier than 4M Linux, because when 4M Linux, when I installed that, it never went over more than 64 megs of memory used, and it used a modified version of Chromium browser so that it would stay in a smaller footprint. This uses Firefox. So I think if I was going to put this on an old system, I would probably can Firefox and put something a little better on there. Maybe there's a browser called Mori that's really lightweight. I would find a better lightweight browser just so that the system would perform better, and go from there. And this will be my thumbnail. So, my overall opinion, it's a nice, fast, lightweight system that is very viable, and I see that if these people get more support in their repositories and they get the word out that they're out there, I think this will be one of the top 10 distros within the next few years. I can't imagine it not being. It's a nice distribution. And with the desktop choices that they give you, if they would add a KDE desktop, that would be amazing, because I would probably switch to it, at least on my laptop. I'm going to see if I can get it running with KDE on my laptop. That's kind of my goal next. So that's it. Void Linux. ISO is really small, under 600 megs. It's not a fork of another distro. It's built from scratch. It runs its own package manager. They have ARM releases you can run on Raspberry Pi, Odroid, BeagleBone. and there's a bunch of other single board platforms. Anyways, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks a lot and have a great night. Take care. Bye-bye.